Hey, welcome back to my channel. I'm Marianne and I teach people how to change life by changing their thoughts. And today I'm going to be doing a video on how to prepare for your very first ever DMT trip. Before I get into it, I'd just like to say thank you to everyone who gives me a thumbs up, everyone who shares or comments, subscribes. Really does help other people to find my channel and find out that they too can change a life by changing their thoughts. Right, so you're thinking about doing DMT for the first time, and I can totally empathise with this because I first heard about DMT from a Joe Rogan podcast, and it must have been like 2015, like a good 5 years ago, maybe even before that anyway. I'm not sure, it was a long time ago. And I wanted to do it so much. I'd heard about ayahuasca, I really wanted to do it, and I thought that it was impossible to get hold of. I thought that if you wanted to do DMT, you literally had to go to like Costa Rica, somewhere in South America, in the jungle, and do a ceremony with a shaman. There's no way that I ever thought that, for starters, I would just be able to like have someone post it to me, or that in time I would end up being a little psychedelic connoisseur and start bloody extracting it myself from the plant. But anyway, enough of that. So the very first time you do DMT, you will want to do a little bit of research, because you do need to prepare yourself somewhat, because it is a massive shock to the system. Before doing DMT, the only ever psychedelic that I'd had was mushrooms, and it was one time, and it was about a month before I'd done DMT. And for some reason with I've got like my tolerance with drugs is really low. I only need a little tiny bit and I'm like blast off. But I'm the absolute opposite with mushrooms and truffles. I need way more than anybody else for some reason. So this first time that I'd done mushrooms, it expanded my consciousness, and I could tell that my thoughts and stuff had changed. It felt like, you know, if you smoke weed sometimes and you get lots of ideas, it kind of felt like that. I could tell that my thoughts were different, but I wasn't really getting, and I wasn't seeing any different visuals. But anyway, so yeah, rambling as always. So the very first time you do DMT, you want to do a bit of research first, so you know what you're letting yourself in for. And then when you actually do it, I've mentioned this before on one of my previous videos, but you do want to make sure that you've got absolutely no distractions whatsoever. This is one of the most important things that I've discovered from experimenting with DMT. One of the most frustrating things that you can have when you're tripping on DMT is someone stealing your trip from you. And I like to call it, I give it that name, like stealing trip, because it really is. If someone distracts you, it can pull you out of whatever you're experiencing, and then it's gone. They've literally stole your trip and it's gone, and it's really frustrating. I can be a little bit of a stress head on DMT if the environment isn't right. I have talked about this in one of my previous videos, but one of the times, quite a few times I've been doing DMT, there's been like a group of us. If you don't have the right people and you've got someone who just doesn't shut up, there's no point doing it. Like, I get so stressed because it just pulls you out of your trip. That's because you're still like, even if you have a full breakthrough, you're still you're semi-conscious, you're not fully unconscious. So like sounds and stuff do distract you. So if people are like, I literally, like, I feel like screaming, shut the fuck up, but obviously I don't do that because it's my friends. But that's what I feel like, and it like really brings that up, because when you're having this experience, you know that it's only going to last for a really short time. Like the deepest part of your DMT trip, where you're out and you're semi-conscious when you have a full breakthrough, that probably only lasts like 5 minutes, and you've got 5 minutes to take in all this information, drum it into your head and try and remember it. It's like you're conscious within a dream. So it's like you're in this dream, you're learning all this information and you just want to remember it, and you know that when it finishes it's going to start fading away just like a dream does. So the next day, for example, when you do dream and when you wake up, you might remember a little bit of the dream, but then later on in the day it's gone. And it's like the same with a DMT trip. So if people are distracting you, that is definitely the most important thing about doing DMT. Make sure you've got no distractions. If you've got a friend who doesn't shut up, do not do DMT with them, because you might end up punching them, because it does actually make you feel really, really frustrated. Because once you're in the trip, you can feel how important it is, and you know that everything that you're going through and everything that you're experiencing is so profound and so amazing that you don't want these distractions. So yeah, if you know anyone who you think doesn't have the capability to be quiet, just don't do it with them. Literally don't do it with them. Also, you want to think about either having it completely silent, no music whatsoever, or you want to have some sort of definitely not chart music, not a chance. You don't want any TV on in the background as well, because that will influence your trip. If, for example, you've got something on in the background, you've just got the TV playing on in the background, and you've got like The Walking Dead on, the energy from that will take your trip. And I can't imagine anyone would be stupid enough to have like some sort of like horror or anything on in the background. But you know, just in case anyone out there just hasn't had that thought and they don't realise, you really need to be careful about everything that's going on in your environment when you're having it. So you want to do it in a place where you feel safe for the first time. So do it either at like your own home or with a friend in a home that you're comfortable in and you feel safe in, preferably in smaller groups, and maybe just 2 of you for the first time, or 3, because you don't want a lot of people there, because it is actually a really personal experience as well. Because the best way to remember your trip afterwards, you either want to write it down straight away, write it down, or you want to talk about it and tell it. And this is why I think it's best to do it one at a time. Because if, for example, there is 2 of you or 3 of you and you're having the trip at the same time, afterwards you then can't like talk about your trip enough, because they also want to talk about their trip, and then you're only remembering bits and bobs. So definitely do it one at a time, and then at the end you've got enough time to soak in the information and remember it. Because if you write it down, it helps you to retain the information and remember it a lot better. Now, so you want to make sure that you've got no distractions. There's only 2 or 3 of you doing it. You want to make sure the music that you've got on in the background, you want to have something like binaural beats or isotronic. You don't want to have anything that's a bit crazy. I like to use Shiva light. They're really, really cool. It's like they're kind of like a little bit trippy as well, so they have really good visuals that come on the screen. The only thing that I find with them is, though, they do have a lot of adverts. So if you're putting something on YouTube, make sure it's not something that's riddled with adverts. Because one thing that I discovered was, I put something on one time, something on YouTube, I think it was actually like positive affirmations on in the background, or like some sort of like motivational like speech in the background while I was doing it. It was something, it was Dr. Joe Dispenza talking, but I can't remember what video it was. So that was on in the background, and I was like in the main part of my trip, like where I was semi-conscious, an advert come on, and whatever advert came on, it stole my trip and it pulled me out of it. And it had some sort of negative vibe to it, and it just totally pulled me out of my trip, and it was just not nice. So you need to make sure that also whatever music you choose to put on in the background, make sure if you're choosing like something on like YouTube, or if you're putting on like Spotify and you don't have premium, you don't want to have any adverts, because it really will just it'll just mess your trip up. So yes, that is my advice for anyone who is planning on doing DMT for the very first time. So let me know down in the comments what you think about it, if you've done DMT before, what you actually think of these tips, or if you've got any tips that you want to add to it, anything that I might have forgotten about. So thank you very much for tuning in today. Namaste.